You are listening to Heart Over Ego Radio. We are a network of shows with a lineup that's sure to raise your vibrations and guide you into your best life. Tune in on Sundays to Everyday Psychic Radio. On Mondays, it's the Alchemy Sisters. Tuesdays, it's Radical Spirituality. On Wednesdays, it's All for One is Love. And on Fridays, take a listen to Rain Radio. Amazing shows produced just for you 5 days a week, only on Blog Talk Radio. This is a Heart Over Ego Radio production.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rain Radio, where we have juicy conversations that lead to powerful transformations. We are your hosts. I'm Naomi Calderon.
And I'm Lila Sage, and today we are discussing owning your truth. So, grab your journal and your drink, put on your crown, and let's chat. What are you drinking?
It's been chilly at night, so I'm drinking some hot lemonade, basically. Honey lemon tea.
And I just almost spit water all over my laptop. I have water and I have tea. I have water because I just woke up from a nap in a bedroom that was like melting, and I require hydration hardcore. Mm-hmm. And maybe my voice will come all the way back by the end of this cup of water. But I'm really excited about the chai latte that's coming later because it's cold here too. It's like winter came back. I don't know what that's about. It's only in February. Early February. Early February. So, owning your truth.
Okay, owning your truth. Got to tell a little story about how this topic came about.
I actually have a few stories that will relate to this, but the idea came around because we were discussing our own personal comfort with ourselves and our own personal, like, this is who I am and I am okay with that and you don't have to like it thing. And I will give the most recent example if it'll circle us back in a necessary fashion, but actually my favorite example is my first husband calling me lazy. So he called me lazy twice that I can remember. And the first time, I think it affected me. I think I might have been like, oh, I should work a little harder. I should do a little bit more. Maybe I should spoil him. But the second time he called me lazy, I had an infant and a toddler, and I was depressed, and I was responsible for the house. All of the cooking, all of the cleaning, all of the laundry, all of the grocery shopping, all of the raising of the children, because he worked weird, stupid hours and he was never home. And I looked at him and I was like, if picking up your dirty laundry makes me lazy, I'm okay with that. Like, if not picking up your dirty laundry. Like, if that is your definition of me being lazy, then I'm cool, because my plate super full. Your dirty laundry, not a priority for me. So, yeah, that was one of those moments of, you can say whatever it is that you would like to say about me, and it has nothing to do with me.
Which is pretty much the truest statement ever, and not just in relation to your ex. What we say about people has more to say about us than it does about them. Always.
Absolutely.
What people say about us has more to do with them than it does us. Period. Because perception is projection. You aren't who I think you are. Hell, you're not even who you think you are.
I like. I was going to say, but I like who you think I am most of the time.
Right?
It's true. We're not who we think we are.
Yeah, it's just my perception of who you are in that sack of skin.
Mm-hmm. So how do we get to a space with ourselves in our sack of skin where other people's perception of us don't matter?
Turn 80 or be PMSy. One or the other. I find those, I haven't hit the 80 mark yet, but I watch women and men who when you're 80, you just kind of don't give a fuck what people think most of the time.
Betty White came to mind when you said that.
Oh, I know. Betty White and my friend's grandma at my friend's wedding, they kept trying to cut her grandma off. And I forget now what she was drinking, but she was a frickin' kick in the pants. And so she hung out with us younger ladies, and she's like, quick, block me. I want to have a drink. She didn't want her husband getting all over her. And she's out on the dance floor shaking it up, and oh my God, we just had such a blast. Such a blast. It was so much fun. And she even said, because of course, somebody was trying to calm Grandma down. And Grandma's like, I'm too old to give a fuck about what people think about me. And I was like, I want to be her.
Yeah,
and yeah, Betty White. And PMS. When I'm PMSing, I don't give a fuck what you think about me. Either that or I'm an absolute mess in tears because you don't think I'm the greatest thing on the planet. It's one or the other extreme. But if it's I don't give a fuck what you think about me, it's amazing what comes out of my mouth that's super judgy, too. So I don't really recommend using that platform to not give a fuck about what people think about you.
But it is a viable tool.
That's when I've been in touch with it the very most. But on an right? On an everyday level, I think your other story actually is a really good illustration because, like 5 different directions of where this the parts of this topic are important. For those of you who are entrepreneurs listening to this call, you will have haters. That's just a fact. You will have people who think you need to do your business differently. They will think you need to show up differently. They will think that your marketing needs to be different. They will think you need to clean up your shit before you do the kind of work you're doing. They will think that you need to dress differently to be more professional. They will think that you should film your videos with more professional background and not show up in your hoodie and a ponytail to film a video. They will think that you fill in the freaking blank. Because people got opinions. Mm-hmm. And you can spend your energy jumping through the hoops, trying to appease all of them and do all the, quote, right things that all these people are throwing at you. Or you can get very comfortable with knowing exactly who you are and how you want to do business and do it your way and fuck what they say. So, entrepreneurs, right? There's that aspect. But just as human beings walking around on this planet, we got family members like Lila's ex who were like, you're too X, you're too Y, you're too Z, you should be more. Well, you get to decide. Mm-hmm. Okay, tell your other one, please, 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 please.
There are things about myself that I'm very comfortable with that most people are not comfortable with. Like, I was afraid of the dark well into my 30s. I watched Sesame Street until I was 22, not because of the children. I actually stopped watching it because my daughter didn't like it, little weirdo. And earthworms creep me out. They just do. So I'm having a conversation with my family, and I'm asking my son, hey, if I show you how to do it, do you think you could pull up the mulch bed liner and put a new one down? And he's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, okay, great, because earthworms. And my enjoyable other starts down the path of helping me get, like, I see where it's going. He really doesn't say anything because I cut him off, because we've had these conversations before, and I know my threshold for these conversations these days. And I said, yes, I'm weird about earthworms. They give me the heebie-jeebies. I know they're completely harmless. I'm not interested in getting over it. I just want somebody else to lay the mulch bed for me. And he just was like, oh.
But I know somebody who's going to help you get over that, Lila.
Listen, I'm okay with being creeped out by earthworms. I just am. If that means that I have to hire someone because my teenager can't sort out, like, the whole thing without me being involved with earthworms, I'm also okay with that. They creep me out. I am anaphylactically allergic. Yeah, that's the story that started. And it's completely irrational, and I'm okay. I'm anaphylactically allergic to wasps. Ooh. They don't bother me like earthworms wriggling around in the earth in mass.
I just think wasps are little motherfuckers, but there's I get the difference in that distinction, that feeling of ooh, creeped out, shivers up the spine, kind of blah, don't make me touch them. Not about earthworms, but just in general. And the reason that story brought up the topic, it's like, how absolutely perfect, because I know your enjoyable other isn't the only one who was like, but there's just earthworms.
Yeah, the guy that the first person that was like, oh, wow, you're afraid of earthworms was a landscape. I guess he's a landscaper. He's really nerdy about gardening. And so I said, hey, do you do this for other people? And he said, yeah, sure. And I said, I have 3 mulch beds that need the liners replaced and need to be remulched. Could you do that for me? And how much would you charge? And I mentioned the earthworms being the reason that I don't want to do it. And he said, you're afraid of them? And I said, no, they just creep me out. And I would rather pay you to deal with them than to go out there and deal with them myself. And he said, okay.
And it's perfect. For me, when Lila told me that story, besides giggling because I grew up fishing, I mean, earthworms, come on. And I get the concept. Something that's just like, that's just gross to me. It's not afraid, like me running from wasps, because that's the thing. But it's just creeped out, grossed out. Just, ew, no, not dealing with that. Mm-hmm. Oh, the big hair clump in the shower drain. That's gross. But the fact that you were so... Okay, could somebody help you get over that? Probably. I know a really fabulous hypnotherapist. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you were like, I'm okay with the fact that I'm creeped out by earthworms. I don't care that I'm creeped out by earthworms. I don't care to change that I'm creeped out with earthworms. I'm actually really very good with exactly who and where I am. That was the part where I was like, fuck yeah, that.
Yeah.
So how do our lovely listeners get to that point?
Self-love. I really think it comes from that conversation that goes on in our heads. I think that I've now gotten to a place where I'm very kind and loving with myself. I know where my edges are. I know which edges I would like to push and which edges I'm okay with leaving in place.
Mm-hmm.
I learned to swim a year ago at age 37, and it took me a while to get to the point where I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to push this particular edge.
Mhm.
And I started treating myself the way I treat my children.
Mm.
I would not call them stupid. I would not be harsh with them consistently or continuously. Like, sometimes I lose my patience with them. I'm not perfect, people. Sometimes I lose my patience with them and I'm frustrated. My 13-year-old, I love him so much. My 13-year-old rode his bike to the library yesterday, which is about a 10-minute bike ride from our house, which isn't super far. But it was dark. I did not know that he had gone. And I'm leaving the library with my 12-year-old, and my 13-year-old, I see him, like, take his bike off of the road onto the parking lot, along the way. And I pull over, and I'm like, hey, dude, what's going on? And he's like, oh, my shoe got stuck. He's wearing flip-flops. It's 30 degrees. It was maybe 34 when he left home. I'm like, I'm fuming, but I managed to, like, calm myself down by the time he got home and explain to him why Mom needs to know where you are, and when you ride your bike, it's really not safe to ride it with flip-flops on. And so I've worked really hard over the last 15 years to talk to myself the way I talk to my babies, who are not babies anymore, because the youngest is 12. And the way I talk to my friends, I'm very gentle and nurturing and loving with my friends as well. Mm-hmm. So I work really hard to talk to myself that same way, and no one can love me less than I love myself. Like, that's not acceptable. So if I go and I ask, hey, I would really love for you to help me get over this fear, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But for you to bring your very heavily unsolicited advice into my world, no, I'm good.
No, you can go pound sand. It's all fine.
One way you could help me get over my fear of earthworms is to go deal with them for me. Thanks.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and probably a whole different call topic is the whole, it's unacceptable. No one can love me less than I love myself. I would also flip that around and say no one can love you more than you love yourself.
True.
Or at least you certainly can't accept it. So that'll be a whole different call topic. Mm-hmm. I loved the earthworm example, though, because like you said, and you put it so beautifully, I know my edges, and especially since our last two calls were about boundaries and sort of touching the edge, going over the edge, pushing out and expanding that edge. You know which ones you want to change. You know which ones you're fine with. And all of that comes down to knowing yourself. So, yeah. How do you do that?
Spending time with myself helped tremendously.
Well, I sit here with my husband every night, and I'm scrolling on Facebook, and he's watching TV. That's like spending time, right?
Are you sure about that?
Well, what does spending time with yourself entail?
It's going to be different for all the people because people are different. For me, it's taking myself out on dates. I will take myself to a local cafe, especially if it's a new place for me, and I will sit with my journal. I don't even always journal. Sometimes I people watch, meet new friends, come up with business ideas, but I do. Whenever I move to a new city, I find the running water in that city, because for me, sitting by running water is soothing to my soul. So you have to have gotten to a point where you know what's soothing to your soul.
Which we talked a little bit in the establishing a comfort zone call.
Yes. Yeah. And so one of the ways that I spend time with myself is I go to my happy place, which is one of the local parks that has a waterfall in it, and I sit by the waterfall. I don't think it's the same thing as meditation, but I think that meditation can be one of the ways that you spend time with yourself.
What I hear in what you're saying is a lot of it is being willing to step out of the everyday busyness, to step out of the, quote, rat race, to step out of the obligations and the doing.
Yes.
And be.
Yes.
So tomorrow I'm leading a live in-person, sit across the table from each other type of workshop. I'm leading a vision board workshop, and the way I'm doing it isn't just, let's all get together and get out our magazines and scissors and cut out pictures and slap them on a piece of board. Nothing wrong with that. We're taking it deeper, though, so that people can start to get to know who they are and who they're not, and who they are now and who they want to become, what they're wanting to uncover, what they're wanting to let go of. And I think that's part of what you're talking about with the process of taking yourself on a date, whether you're journaling or not. And yeah, meditation can be another tool. There's someone... go ahead.
I was going to say it's less the meditation and it's more the quiet. Like you said, the disconnect from the busy.
Yeah. You have to be willing to sit, and at some point, I think you have to be willing to ask yourself, what's really important to me? And a technique I used to use in my my yoga classes, and I also use it with my current clients. For those of you who don't know, years ago I was a personal trainer and yoga instructor. Now as a coach, I use the same thing with my clients, is can you step out of the thought pattern, the situation, the whatever, and be the observer. Just observe. Rather than being the judgy pants wearing two-legged that sometimes we are. Just observe.
That's so interesting.
How so?
That's how I handled my second labor.
Oh, stepping outside yourself and being the observer?
Yeah, that's a powerful practice.
And
that I do not do enough.
I was going to say, it's not always easy. It's easy to forget, especially if we're in a situation where emotions are running high. Also, sometimes challenging to remember when we have a committee in our head giving us all sorts of feedback. Maybe you should be picking up his underwear and dirty clothes and blah, 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 whatever it is. My guess is you didn't have that committee doing that, or he would have picked him up. You were like, pick up your own crap. So
I think that I disbanded the committee at some point.
Yeah, which can be really helpful. Now, for some of you, you might be like, I don't know what committee you're talking about. Some of you may not have a committee in your head, because I've recently come to understand that not everybody has this dialogue and chatter that happens in their head. Some people see it in pictures. Some people hear it in words. Some people may not do it at all. I can't relate to that. I don't know what it
saw
would
that
be like to
article.
have
I
that.
plan on reading it.
I'll send it to you. It's very curious, very interesting. And I was like, what? But I digress. So for those of you who can't relate, for some of us, it's like there's just one person in our head giving us feedback on what we should be doing, shouldn't be doing, but whatever. Or coming up with random questions like, how do dragons blow out candles? Just weird crap. Others of us have a whole committee of people chiming in. Sometimes we simply have to thank the committee, but step outside of them and get quiet. Because it's about observing what's going on, observing how things are showing up. Am I actually enjoying this? Fill in the blank. Am I enjoying my life? Am I enjoying this organization that I'm part of? Am I enjoying this activity? Am I enjoying... What is it I want to stand for in this world? What do I want to be involved with in this world? And I think the journaling can be a great, getting quiet. I think the journaling can be a great access into that, as can meditation, as can therapy, as can working with a coach. There's a lot of different ways to do that. The big thing is you have to decide that you're willing to put the time and intention and attention into making that happen and to getting to know who you are. What are your edges?
And I think another part of the conversation is that your voice matters.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as a female or the feminine in our society.
Mm-hmm.
We teach our girls to be nice. I hate that word. My daughter is bossy, and I tell her to be kind and gentle, but I never tell her to be nice.
I like that.
Yeah. The original definition of nice equates to stupid. And we silence, as a society, we silence women. A man and a woman can say the exact same thing, and it's brilliant when it comes out of his mouth. What? She just... Okay, never mind. So I think one of the things that we have to do, speaking to the parents now, is teach your girls to own their voices. And if you are not a parent and you are a woman, which I feel like most of the people listening to this podcast are, I would say go back and find the pieces of your voice that you left throughout your life up until this point and just pick it up again.
Mm-hmm.
And know that, oh gosh, that quote, the Dr. Seuss quote, those who mind don't matter and those who matter won't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, live in the embodiment of that.
Yeah.
And if you think, like, oh, I don't want to be an asshole, there's a good chance that you're not being an asshole. Assholes don't give that sort of consideration to things.
So here's the other side of that. And if someone else thinks you're being an asshole because you're staying true to you, that's on them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's always ways we can do it. If somebody's pushing my boundary, I can lash out, and just for the record, I'm two-legged, and I have done that in the past with certain people in certain circumstances. Or I can just be like, I appreciate your feedback, and this is my line in the sand.
Yeah.
So there are ways to handle things where you might, yes, come across more asshole-ish, but typically we don't like it as two-leggeds when someone else holds their boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
We might think it weird that somebody gets weirded out by earthworms. And we might have judgment around it. We might want to help fix that. We might step in and think we know better. Because, Lila, they're just earthworms. They won't hurt you.
Utterly harmless, creepy little critters.
Well, and like you said, you know that they don't hurt you.
Yeah.
It isn't that. They're just gross to you. They're creepy, icky.
I don't
gross.
need to touch them.
Right.
See them in mass quantity.
And you didn't choose a profession where you have to touch them, so hey, yay, there's a win. You know? But yeah, if you're worried you're going to be an asshole, your voice matters. What you want matters. Know your edges. Know what that is that you want. And then be okay with it. And sometimes we go through phases. If you are new to this concept and you're like, oh my God, I've never done that. Trust me, I have been there. I have been there. One company I worked for, it's a whole different story. I got the nickname the double-fisted fuck you girl. Because if somebody pushed up against one of my boundaries, or if I felt like someone was, in essence, saying it wasn't okay to think what I thought and be who I was, I would come out swinging with both barrels. Now, it was because I knew what I wanted, and I was at a place in my life where I didn't feel worthy of wanting that. I didn't feel I deserved it. I didn't know how to hold a boundary except by coming out swinging. Because I wasn't standing strong in who I was. Because I was just as judgy about myself as I thought everybody else around me was being.
Gotcha.
So that kindness that Lila's talking about, you might, if you're in that stage and you're working to discover these things and you're working to own them, you may need to apply that kindness, like she said, as much to yourself. And be okay with the fact that you're creeped out by earthworms.
Yeah, or that, like, sometimes you're a bitch. That's okay.
Oh, yeah. I was told I was a bull in a china shop, and it devastated me.
Aww.
And I found that I would constantly, and I find I still sometimes do this in certain circumstances. I'm here to give you hope, people. Sometimes these things show up years later, and you're like, oh, that's that pattern. Oh, crap. Where I would dial some shit back because I didn't want to be because what does a bull in a china shop do? They break the crap out of everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the women that I worked with, same effed up company. This woman actually had a lot of respect for her. We sat down one day and we were talking, and I said that, and she did such a perfect reframe. And she said, well, what if a bull in a china shop is exactly what's needed? Because sometimes things have to be broken apart so we can sweep up the pieces and put them together in a different way. I was like, damn.
I love that.
I know. And all I pictured was, a shattered mirror and putting the pieces together in this beautiful, amazing mosaic. Because, I see shit in pictures, and I'm a nerdy art girl. But it was such a profound moment for me, and that was 2007. So that's been, 12, 13 years ago that she said that, and it has stuck with me. And so in those moments when I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't be so big and so out there and so, brash and so fill in the blank, I have to remember that if bull in a china shop is what's needed, maybe it's okay. And I have had situations where that has caused some major discord. It has caused major problems. It has caused angst on my part and the part of others. And it hasn't always been comfortable. And sometimes I get to look at, how do I show up as that bull in a china shop? Is it showing up? Can I still show up as a bull in a china shop with compassion and love? Can I show up as a bull in a china shop intentionally instead of just coming in as a destructive whirlwind? Because there is a difference. And that's the piece that I get to explore. But I get to own, you know what? I'm not ever going to be, I used to teach yoga, and my yoga classes were not your typical, okay, let's all meditate on Om. Okay. No. I was the one who would teach a yoga class and be like, okay, press your toes towards the ceiling. And we'd be standing, and I'd be talking about pushing them down on the mat, or I'd be like, okay, push your heels into the floor. And we're on our backs with our feet up towards the ceiling. I'm like, the other floor, whatever. I'm not going to show up necessarily in the box that other people think I should. I'm a double Leo with a Taurus moon. I'm going to be big, bold, brash, and probably a little stubborn most of the time. And then other times, I show up with, I would say that doesn't change, but there's so much compassion I can bring to a situation without losing that. I don't have to change who I am.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the place I find that sometimes to be challenging still is when I'm networking locally in business, because people have perceptions about how you should be as a business person. I can tell you, I have dropped more cuss words on this particular podcast. I better look at my calendar and see where I'm at in my cycle. Than I would typically ever drop in some of these settings. Because I think you also have to know your audience. It doesn't mean change who you are, the essence of who you are. And what can you do to still bring who you are without alienating those around you? That's probably a whole different conversation.
Possibly. You just reminded me of a shit ton of tools to share with people, though. So, if you are not, Naomi just said she's a double Leo with a what happening? What's rising?
Oh my
Taurus?
God, I'm a double Leo with a Taurus moon. Woo!
Taurus moon. Oh, Leo rising. Oh, the poor world.
I know. Well, and most of my other stuff, it's like Leo, 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 Virgo, Leo. Yeah. So it's like fire, 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 fire. Ah.
All the Sagittarius in my chart, but it's really hilarious because I show up more like an Aries. Fun times. Anyway, so if you're listening to us and are like, what the hell are you people talking about? Run your natal chart, NATAL. Just Google it, free natal chart or free birth chart. You need to know your birth date, which most of us know, your birth time as close as possible, and your place of birth, the city and state and country. And you will find out what the sky looked like at the moment of your birth, and it gives you fantastic insights into your personality and the way you show up in the world. Another fantastic tool for doing that is human design.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Google it.
You can do a free assessment online on human design too.
Did you hear that?
What was that?
The Bluetooth speaker has a built-in Google whatever.
I'm not sure how to help with that.
Oh
I'm
my
not
God,
talking to you.
Funny.
We never activated it. I guess it came activated, and it annoys him. It annoys my enjoyable other so much because he's like, "Why is the thing talking? I never told it to talk. I hate those things."
That's funny.
You
want something that creeps me out? That creeps me out. That's my version of earthworms.
Well, especially when I'm not talking to it. At least I have to purposefully say Alexa's name to get her to perk up and ask me what I want.
Right.
But, yeah, so human design, your birth chart, thesecretlanguage.com is another more psychology. It's like astrology. It's based upon your birthday, but it's more psychology based, and it's very interesting. And they also give you relationship pairings. So if you put in your birth date and someone else's, it'll tell you what the good points of your relationship are and what the challenging points may be. Fun times.
Well, like you said, another thing is just take a blank journal and a pen so you can really start discerning and distilling down for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want? What do you stand for? What lights you up?
What sends you into a rage?
Yeah.
That may also be a clue.
Sometimes for people it's easier to access what you do want by going through what you don't want or what pisses you off. What's your picket sign stuff? What do you rail against?
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask yourself those questions, I'd encourage you to ask underneath there. Great, what's underneath that? I can't stand to see people mistreated. Great, what's underneath that? And keep digging.
Mm-hmm.
It will help you discern what's important to you. Also look at stuff if you're my age, if you're starting to hit an interesting age, what stuff did you used to do that you loved that you haven't done in forever, and when you think about it, you kind of miss it. What would it take to bring something like that back?
Why is that important?
Yep. Why is that important?
Mm-hmm.
What comes up first for me is we don't have enough joy in our lives for a lot of us. We do all this obligatory shit that we have to do, that we're supposed to do, especially those of you who are parents. I own plants, and that's hard enough. But there's all these obligations.
And children, what was I thinking?
Oh, I don't know, man. That's some crazy talk there. And we forget about the things that spark joy in us. We forget, or we don't create the time for it because we're too busy adulting, because we're too busy being responsible, because we tell ourselves stories about whatever, or because we let other people dictate to us what we should or shouldn't be doing, or we let them label us and we buy into those labels, like you're too lazy, or like my ex who didn't like my singing. Luckily, I'm married to a man now who is fine with the fact that I'll see something and it will remind me of a song, and that song just comes blurting out of my mouth. Life is a song, so sing along, But for 5 years, I didn't sing because I let somebody else dictate who I thought I needed to be. It's important to bring those things back that you enjoy. It's important to tap into what lights you up. It's important to nurture that side of you, the essence of you, the beingness of you. My belief is that if something gives you that much joy and lights you up that much, that there's a soul piece that's asking for you to remember. There you go.
I love it.
So if you love earthworms, love them. If you hate earthworms, hate them. If you're just creeped out by them, great. It's all good, people. Be okay with what you do, with who you are, what does and doesn't work for you, and the things about you that you're like, if Lila were to say, I don't like the fact that I'm creeped out by earthworms because I know they won't hurt you, and Lila wanted to change it, fantastic. She could change it. She doesn't want to change it. She's perfectly okay with it, and that's okay, and that's really the point. Be okay with who you are and what it is what your edge is. I really love when you put it that way. Be okay with your edge.
Mm-hmm. And in order to be okay with it, you gotta know what it is, and you gotta love yourself.
Yep. And then you decide when and where and how you move that edge. Or don't.
That sounds like a good place to pause for now. What about for you?
I feel pretty complete with all that.
Yay. Thank you for jiggling with us for the last hour. We will talk to you guys next time.
Bye, everyone.